Good evening. 46 years ago today, one of the fastest and most comprehensive processes of power transfer in history was determined through the ballot box. The decisive development was a crystallization of the historic determination and desire of the Iranians to consolidate the foundations of independence, dignity and national sovereignty. In a landmark referendum held in 1979, more than 98.2% of all eligible voters said yes to the establishing an Islamic Republic in Iran. The vote, held less than 2 months after the victory of the Islamic Revolution, is considered as a turning point in the modern history of Iran. On this National Day, we stand at a pivotal juncture to critically examine the achievements and challenges of the Islamic Republic of Iran. In a world fraught with adversity, this system has endured decades of turbulence, persisting through foreign-backed conspiracies, economic pressures and constant threats of military action. Yet its survival raises essential questions about resilience, progress and the price of independence. I am Bahman Ray, your host, and in this spotlight we go over the history of the Islamic Republic and the ups and downs it has gone through. Let us begin with a short report.
The Islamic Republic of Iran. 3 words that mark one of the most significant milestones in the country's history. Islamic Republic Day, celebrated on April the 1st, commemorates the referendum that established this new governing system, ushering in a new era, endorsed by 98.2% of the voters, as defined by its late founder Imam Khomeini: Islamic Republic, not a word more, not a word less. 46 years later, the sentiments remain just as strong.
The overwhelming presence of people at public celebrations, rallies, and events is a clear sign of the strong support for the Islamic Republic.
We voted for the Islamic Republic after the revolution because it was our slogan: independence, freedom, and Islamic Republic. This choice aligned perfectly with our ideals and aspirations.
Islamic Republic Day embodies one of the key slogans of the 1979 revolution, chanted by masses: independence, freedom, and Islamic Republic. And today, a new generation remains committed to honoring this legacy, preserving the values that have shaped the nation's identity.
I was born after the revolution in the 1980s, and I believe that for us, it brought positive change. I will always stand by and support the Islamic Republic.
The Islamic Republic is the legacy handed down to us by our fathers. It is our duty to honor and protect this legacy so that it may be passed on to future generations.
The establishment of the Islamic Republic did not come easily. Many martyrs sacrificed their lives for us to have it, and it is our responsibility to safeguard it.
But Islamic Republic Day is more than just a national celebration. It highlights Iran's role as a beacon of hope for oppressed nations around the world.
The Islamic Republic is not merely a political system. It is a school of thought and a dialogue with the primary goal of creating justice. Its foundation lies in supporting oppressed people, above all the Palestinian people.
This is why the day serves as a reminder to Iranians of unity and solidarity that extends far beyond the nation's borders.
Iranians are marking the anniversary of the Islamic Republic with national pride, reaffirming their commitment to regional peace and progress towards a brighter future. Yusumi Shahmadi, Press TV, Tehran.
Welcome back. Allow me to introduce my guests. Saib Shah, author and commentator, joining us from Belfast, UK. And John Stepling, author and commentator, joining us from Inderøy, Norway. Gentlemen, very good to have you on the program. I'm going to start with Saib with the first question. 46 years of the Islamic Revolution, and despite all the conspiracies, all the attacks, all the sanctions, it has survived. What do you think is the key to the survival of the Islamic Republic of Iran?
Hello to you and your guests and your audience. The Islamic Revolution of Iran, it wasn't just a regional event. It was a global, and it was a huge global earthquake at the time. that resulted in enormous geopolitical shift in the region. It's still shaping and influencing West Asia today and all the Arabic and Islamic world as well. The impact that revolution had in Western imperialist forces, it weakened them since they lost the control of the Shah, who were deploying the huge country of Iran to the service of the imperialists and to be looted by the Zionist entity and by the Western forces as well. So while this Islamic revolution was straight away when it's erupted in Iran, it's empowered the Islamic and the Arabic world. It's brought about what we call today the Islamic awakening, which is still that thing influencing and shaping the countries in the region and the movements worldwide. So, but it came, the Islamic revolution as well, let me just allude to this. It came in a very important and a precise point in history, which we witnessed neutralizing of a major power in the region, like Egypt at the time, after signing the Camp David protocols between Sadat of Egypt and the Zionist entity fascist head at the time called Begin. That signature removed Egypt totally from the camp at the time you stand against Zionism and colonialism, and placed it under the American domination. And that resulted immensely in strengthening the Zionist entity and provided with political recognition from largest Arabic and Islamic state in the region. So it gives them free carte blanche on Palestine and to attack the resistance in Lebanon and in Syria. So the eruption of the Islamic revolution, it changed that. It tilted the balance of power back to the people in the region. That is one of the major points which denied the Americans a free hand in the region and start forming what we have today, the axis of resistance.
Right. I'm going to talk to John right now. John, why do you think the Islamic revolution's discourse has survived so many years, so many decades, and can still stand up to the dialogue offered by the West?
I think its durability is rather remarkable, actually. Certainly, the United States and Israel, which is an organ of the United States, essentially, has never made any bones about wanting to bring the downfall of the Republic. And you have to remember that the Shah of Iran was a U.S. puppet. He was installed by the U.S. and the CIA, and the British helped. He had the most notorious secret police probably in the whole of the 20th century, trained by the United States. The U.S. gave him what intelligence it had, and they were very happy because he did what he was told. There was a lot of sort of theatrical visits to differing countries, but Pahlavi simply listened to what the U.S. said. He knew what he was supposed to say. He knew what his policies were supposed to be. And this was a typical CIA playbook kind of a coup that they orchestrated, getting Mossadegh out, putting in the Shah. They've done very similar things, a dozen other places. What is interesting is that when the revolution came, the United States had no intelligence about it at all. They did not expect anything. They did not see it coming. And this has been one of the reasons, I think, that the political class in the U.S. harbors such animosity towards Iran, is they were made to look very foolish. And it was just a massive failure, an intelligence failure. So there's that history looming over everything. And of course, the other reason is that every other country in the region has been subjected to some kind of U.S. incursion, some kind of conflict. And certainly Iran has participated in conflicts too, not particularly willingly, but every country that surrounds Iran has had problems. The U.S. has military bases surrounding the country. Iran is surrounded by U.S. military, and yet they have survived. And not only that, they have a reputation for an extraordinarily adept diplomatic corps, an extremely smart and savvy sort of deep state. It's renowned for this. So they have the respect of all their neighbors, and I think that the few times that Iran has tried to reach out to the U.S., the JCPOA and things like that have ended badly because the U.S. doesn't keep its word, and I hope that the current administration in Iran has learned that lesson. And the other point is, since the revolution, Israel has wanted nothing more than a war with Iran. That's been clear.
Right, so John mentioned something very important, the military bases of the United States around the country, and at the same time, the failure of the last time the two countries started to have some sort of dialogue. We've had, throughout the history of the Islamic Republic, we've had all sorts of conspiracies against Iran. We've had, like, even Saddam Hussein invaded the country, and with the full support and backing of the Western Bloc, they even gave him chemical warfare against the country, and all of these terrors and assassinations by the Israeli regime in Iran. Nuclear scientists were assassinated. Why all sorts of obstruction, why all sorts of aggression against the country that came with a slogan of peace?
As I said, the Islamic Revolution of Iran, it wasn't just regional. Some people misunderstand it. Some people think it's just a regional country who have a massive revolution. This is three side effects for it. There's a global, and there is regional, and there is local to Iran. The global became of this influence of the Islamic Revolution. It's in power shifting and power distribution. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, it was felt very well. The United States of America have a free ride to control and loot the resources of the whole world, and enslaved many countries and fought any countries even who were close to the Soviet Union. At the time, we noticed even the Russians themselves, the Chinese, become dominated by the unipolar power, the United States of America. West Europe, today, they just discovered they were totally being occupied and controlled by the United States of America after the Americans threw them under the bus when they were negotiating with the Russians about the Ukraine. So this is one of the global, and start in regional, building its own resistant camp facing the United States of America. You mentioned the massive war which they supported Saddam Hussein in launching on Iraq. So they didn't want to leave Iran 1 minute to breathe and to develop itself. They kept the wars on it. They kept the sabotage operations against the scientists. They wanted to disrupt all the development and the sciences advancement in Iran. Then the whole forces in the world, when they see in Iran this is advancing and facing that monsters of imperialism, they started themselves to have shaping. What we have today is regional powers, and is developed to some alliance, which today we have the BRICS. This is, during the hegemons of the United States of America on world affairs, this wasn't even dreamed with. But the resistance, which is Iran, showed them an example, encouraged a lot of countries to start and to break away and to form their own multi-polar system in the world, which we see today with the BRICS, we see with the Chinese, we see with the Russians, we see with South Africa, with Iran. And the Islamic revolution in the local level brought to the people of Iran dignity, as you mentioned in your report, sovereignty, independence, and freedom from the criminal white supremacist colonial domination that rooted the country during the Shah.
Exactly. You mentioned the key point of independence. If it was one of the key principles of Ayatollah Khomeini's vision for the future of the Islamic Republic, my question for you, John, is how do you think this independence played such a key part in the formation of the state and in redefining the relations the country had with the world?
Well, the United States expects other countries to be obedient, to listen to what the message from Washington is, and to follow the lead of Western diplomats when they visit. This is just expected. And those times when countries show resolve and independence, the United States is shocked. They're angry. They're appalled. They feel they have to discipline this delinquent child in their eyes. And Iran has simply never allowed itself to be pushed around at all. And again, this speaks to the respect that it has from its neighbors. It may not even be liked by many of them, but everybody respects Iran, and they have earned that respect. The U.S. is flailing at the moment. The Trump administration doesn't quite know what to do. He's threatening everybody. If it's not tariffs, it's bombs, and he's got some super hawks in his administration right now who, before the election, Pete Hegseth and Rubio and all these people had said they absolutely want to bomb Iran. The first thing I'm going to do is bomb Iran. Then, of course, when they are, talk with the Pentagon, they talk with the Joint Chiefs, they talk with advisors, and they realize, oh, well, this would be a very bad idea. This is not a simple, tiny little country that we can push around. And in fact, I think given how thinly stretched the U.S. is, they simply can't. They can't engage in another confrontation with anybody. But this returns me to Israel again. Israel, the Greater Israel Project, the expansion, we see it with Syria and Lebanon right now. Netanyahu in particular has always wanted a war with Iran. He has pushed for it relentlessly for 30 years, and he hasn't gotten it. And the reason he hasn't gotten it is that there are a few sane heads in Washington and at the Pentagon who know very well it's simply an impossible thing to do. The U.S. can't even stop the Houthis from shutting down the Red Sea. So I think that Iran has demonstrated a kind of integrity and independence in the face of a lot of provocation. Assassinations of key figures and so forth, and they have remained extremely level-headed and with great resolve, and that's all you can expect, I suppose.
Right, as John mentioned the issue of Israel, I want to talk to you, Saib, about one of the biggest accomplishments of Ayatollah Khomeini in shaping the foreign policy of Iran in the beginning of the new government and in the new structure in Iran. And that was the issue of Palestine. He put the issue of Palestine on top of Iran's foreign policy agenda. How do you think, many experts and analysts are saying that this helped bring the issue of Palestine from being a rather limited regional Arab problem and issue to something global, and the world was kind of awakened to it. What's your take on that?
It's a good question. The first thing, when you notice after the Islamic revolution of Iran, it's felt in the streets of Palestine, a copycat of the Islamic revolution in forms of the resistance, from appearing, first of all, the Islamic wings of the Palestinian revolution, from Islamic Jihad, then later on to Hamas, was formed the guidance of that was the Islamic Revolution of Iran. Then the habits of the Palestinian people start to adjust itself socially, culturally with the Islamic Revolution of Iran. This is important. And the resilience developed in there. Since I mentioned after neutralizing Egypt, Israel got carte blanche, attacking Lebanon, occupied it in 1982, destroying the Palestinian presence in Lebanon, attacking the Lebanese resistance, American landing in Lebanon as victorious with the French forces. Even the resistance would start developing in 1983, attacked them and pushed them back. In the year 2000, the resistance, which were supported by the Islamic Revolution of Iran, managed with the leadership of Hezbollah at the time to cleanse Lebanon from this occupation. And this is at the global level. As I said, you have countries like Venezuela, when it was besieged and blockaded by the United States of America, its neighbor. The Iranian Revolution sent ships of some oil and gas, liquid gas, and the food and supplies, medical supplies and technologies to support the people who's been oppressed by the Americans. This is felt there is a network of resistance was forming from the transatlantic to the Indian Ocean, Pacific Ocean. And that's Iran gave an example to a lot of countries to stand in its position facing the Americans' unipolar kind of act in the world and domination in the world. And the Islamic Revolution set that example, and lots of countries start to follow suit. Lately, I want to emphasize this, the EU itself, following the Iranian example, when they want to try to build their own military force now, they try to build their own economies, they try to show themselves as independent from the American hegemony.
Right, so allow me to jump in there for the sake of time. Because you mentioned the achievements, the scientific achievements of the country, I wanted to actually ask you about that. It's a question for both of you. First, Saib, please go on, because you were already talking about it. Despite all the sanctions and the cruel, illegal sanctions that Iran is on, that basically the entire life of the Islamic Republic, it has been under sanctions. But we are seeing so much progress in science, in the nuclear industry. We can see how Iran has progressed despite all the assassinations, all the plots to delay the progress and everything. What does that tell the world? What kind of message does it send across?
The message is very clear. The leadership of the Islamic Revolution was able from the beginning to guide the Iranian people toward building capable, independent state, politically and economically. And then they start achieving their scientific development. This development is indigenous in Iran, become localized from industry. This progress in various fields, you're talking about even apart from the sanctions and the wars and the aggression and the sabotage and all of these destabilizing operation, covert or overt operation, the revolution, Islamic Revolution, opened the way to the country to develop itself and build solid scientific and industrial base that was advanced. You know, in nanotechnology, Iran is one of the leading countries of that base and have with its research centers. Iran today, while it's facing the imperialist powers who is wanting to do a regime change just to keep looting the country after that, is a strong, capable, independent country who can stand firm against imperialism and against the terrorist and assassination operation. Because the United States of America and Israel sending squads of death squads to assassinate scientists in different fields. This is how they try to destabilize the country.
Thank you, sir. And John, one final question. Of course, I wanted you to also talk about the same question, but Iran has maintained its influence in regional politics and diplomacy despite all the efforts by the adversaries. 1 minute we have. Please, your take on that.
Well, again, they have extraordinary integrity. They've kept their word with partners. Their diplomatic corps is renowned for its intelligence and again, its integrity. yes, under sanctions, they have managed to prosper and achieve enormous things, but this is much like Cuba, like Venezuela. Cuba has been under sanctions since their revolution, and yet they produce more doctors than anywhere in the world. Iran is the same kind of story.
Right.
That they have not squandered their role in the region. They have supported Hamas. They have supported the right side of everything. They are friends with the right people. It's just very sound and intelligent leadership, I think, and it's not the kind of cuckoos that we see, sadly, in power in the EU and US right now, let alone, of course, Israel.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for the conversation. It was a great honour to have you on the programme. Saib Shah, author and commentator, joining us from Belfast, UK, and John Stepling, author and commentator, joining us from Inderøy, Norway. And thank you so much once again, our viewers, for staying with us on this National Day of the Islamic Republic of Iran. See you next time on Spotlight.